Nick Perbix is in town after being signed by the Nashville Predators in free agency. Today, we'll tell you why Perbix is signing and some other off-season moves may mean a change in direction for the blue line.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Wednesday episode with a hearty shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders and to our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, I have two partners in crime.
You do. I am the less exciting of the two. I'm Emma Lingan. I am a NHL host and reporter with the Hockey News. Of course, joining us for the cold open was Minka. She is upper management here for the Locked On Predators podcast. She's just, doing her daily check-in. Got to make sure that we're staying in line.
Yep, she's giving us a good listen to before we publish this because she knows how we can get. And today, let me tell you something. Ann is all up in her feels. We'll get to that in a minute. Of course, we have something big to talk about. Nick Perbix, of course, was signed by the Nashville Predators last week in free agency. We got a chance to hear from him today. He is in town. Today, we're going to share what Nick Perbix had to say about his time in Tampa Bay and what he learned there. Also, he shares what was appealing about coming to the Nashville Predators. Perbix is just one of the moves that Barry Trotz has made this offseason to address what we can only call an abysmal showing on defense. Today, we're going to talk about why the Predators may be turning the page on the blue line with some of what they've done. Emma, we've got to talk about Nick Perbix. We so need to talk about the Nashville Predators defense. But right now, nobody can tell Ann Kimmel nothing. And you want to know why, friends? Because Gavin McKenna is going to Penn State, and nobody can tell me anything. I literally got out the old Penn State jersey. My husband's like, "What were you yelling about?" I was like, "Listen, buddy, if you know, you know." So I just want to say happy Aiden Fink is going to score 100 points day to all who celebrate because it's going to be so great.
Yeah, and this is going to be, this is big for this sort of the landscape of minor or junior hockey right now, because now that the rules are changing starting this season, that players can go from junior to the NCAA without penalty. We're probably going to be seeing a lot more of this, and so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here. But yes, happy day for Penn State hockey for sure, and for Nashville Predators prospect Aiden Fink.
Yes, who is likely going to benefit from just chilling out with the next generational hockey talent on the landscape. So excited for them. So excited for the Penn State program. And I know that's not what we're talking about today, but I do want to shout out the Penn State program because Guy Gadowski has come in and really built this program up. Huge following on campus. I know, we always talk about, especially in SEC land, it's college football. And of course, Penn State has a great college football fan base as well. But I am telling you, that college loves them some Nittany Lion hockey, and it is on my bucket list. My sister and I are waiting for schedules to come out, but my dream weekend is to go up to State College and take in a game at Pagula Ice Center and then go to a whiteout game on Saturday in Beaver Stadium. So we all have dreams, Emma. We all have dreams. Today, mine just feels a little bit more delicious because Gavin McKenna is going to Penn State. Clearly, that's not what we're here to talk about, but you can't steal my joy, you all. You cannot steal my joy. It feels like 83 years. That's how happy I am right now. Last season feels like 83 years.
It's added a year back to your life. just one, though.
Just one. Don't get overexcited. Yeah. So one of the things that Nashville absolutely had to do to make up for what was only it was a Control-Alt-Delete situation after last season on the blue line. Barry Trotz talked about going to bring in some other guys. Nick Perbix was one of those free agent signings. And of course, Emma, you were the one who broke this news and broke it down with our listeners last week. Of course, signed a 2-year, $5.5 million deal, 27 years old, Minnesota boy. Interesting, drafted in the 6th round in 2017. He's played 3 seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning on the blue line. Played a different role in Tampa Bay than what we expect him to play here in Nashville. But I just wanted to play. We got a chance to talk with him and ask him some questions. And I just wanted to kick this off by talking about what he had to say about learning to play in the NHL in Tampa Bay.
I mean, just being around guys like the Victor Hedmans and stuff. I mean, even Ryan McDonough, who was here, you learn a lot from those types of guys. And then, I mean, just with the experience I had of winning their couple of cups, going to another final right before I got there. So everyone in the organization, even the forwards, like you guys have Stamkos now, or I should say we have Stamkos now. But no, just like all the experience and all of that, and kind of it was my first few years pro, and so just learning those things versus college, and I mean just growing a lot as a player outside of hockey also.
I love that he says, you guys have Stamkos. I mean, we have Stamkos. It's his first free agency, everybody. We have grace and abundance for Nick Perbix when he talks about what the heck team am I even on. But I think it's really interesting, and I think it's important that he comes into the league and he has somebody like a Victor Hedman to be watching as he figures out how do you do this at the NHL level. When you think about this signing, Emma, what stands out to you about him as a player? What do you like about this signing? What concerns do you have about this signing?
Well, like I said before, I love this signing for Nashville. I mean, I think he was clearly they had a need on the right side of the defense, and I think the best at the time, the best right shot defenseman available was, I think, like if you went by leaderboards, would be Brent Burns. But can you imagine the the torches and pitchforks that would come out if Barry Trotz signed another player who was 40 years old to this roster? And that is nothing against Brent Burns. He's still a fine player, but I'm just, it would not be a good look. It
would be like if Gavin McKenna signed at Ohio State. That's what this would be like. Not good.
Yeah, not good. So I think that Perbix was a really good option here. I think that he was the best option available. He's young, he fits all the qualities that Barry Trotz wanted, that he said he was going to go do. He got younger and he got bigger on the blue line. That's exactly what he said he was going to do. And so I think that, he's young. I actually think he got him for a pretty good price. A guy like Perbix played, like you said, a different role in Tampa. He played more of a depth role on defense. But again, I think that's more because of, the personnel they have in Tampa. So they didn't need him to play a larger role. So he could play farther down. And, I think he was underutilized a little bit in Tampa, and which is why I like, the decision for him to now go test free agency, say, okay, well, I can maybe, instead of going back to Tampa, I can test the market. I can probably make some more money because Tampa, if you haven't seen their cap situation, if you haven't seen their salary cap situation, it's not pretty. But so that way he can go and get more money and then maybe get a larger role. And that's exactly what he's going to do in Nashville. Now, as far as the, what concerns me about the pick, can he fill that larger role? I don't know. Yeah. I'm not saying for sure he can't, or I doubt that he can. It's just like, we don't know. And I think that obviously there's faith that he can. I do think he was sort of boxed into a certain role in Tampa Bay. But now, in Nashville, he's got this opportunity to take on a larger role on, both on the blue line and then on special teams as well. So it's what can he do with that opportunity?
Yeah. Coming up, Nick Perbix shares why Nashville appealed to him. That's a question that we've talked about after such a tough season. What is the selling point for Nashville? Perbix let us know what it was for him. We're also going to talk about that getting bigger and getting younger on the blue line. Can this really make a big difference for the Predators? We'll talk about that. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Monarch Money. Do you ever wish that managing money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning for a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is so much more than just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and all of your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. Monarch Money is a great tool for young adults learning how to track all of their finances. It also makes financial collaboration easier. You and your partner can stay on the same page with spending, investments, and working together towards your financial goals without adding any extra stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off. All right, Emma, one of the downsides of having the kind of year that Nashville did is that even if they wanted to go out in free agency and make a big splash, you are going to have to sell it, friends, because the world just saw the struggle bus when you come to Nashville. And so I thought it was a fair question and an interesting question when you talked to Nick Perbix about, hey, what appeals to you about Nashville? And I think you hit on a big thing. This is a great opportunity for him to step into a different role. But this is what he had to say about what it was about Nashville that appealed to him in free agency.
Never been through something like that, so it's pretty unique. And obviously, this is a great city, great fan base. Obviously, tough place to play from playing on the other side of things. But so that was exciting. Obviously, they didn't have the year that they wanted last year, but I know looking at this roster and playing against them, it's definitely not like how I think this year will go. So it was definitely an appealing team. Yeah, that was definitely another thing that brought me to the team, because obviously it's not only hockey. It's you got to live here too. You got to hopefully have a family here. Maybe my fiance will be coming with me, and so yeah, it was appealing to everything with that. And so Nashville is just, you always hear there's a reason why it's so many people want to come here, even just outside of hockey. And so that was definitely one thing that was very appealing.
I just so want one of them one time to be like, it's because of the no estate income tax, because that's such a hot topic. But, I do think when you are somebody who is in your mid to late 20s and you have an opportunity to look around the league, things like lifestyle, weather. He went on to talk about the fact that he loves to golf. He and his fiance love to golf. Well, welcome to Nashville, where you can golf, 9-10 months out of the year. So, I think this is a part of, he looks at this team and says, okay, surely last season was an anomaly. As Emma and I say to ourselves every night before we go to sleep, surely it will not feel like this next season. So there's something to be said for like believing it. Nick Perbix said it.
Well, see, that was actually very validating when he said that.
Yes.
I was like, okay, so I'm not that delusional to think that maybe last year it was all a mirage. It never really happened. It wasn't real. And so, but again, it's very validating, because I say it and people say, no, this roster's horrible. There's no talent. But then when Nick Perbix says it, maybe believe him. I don't know. Because again, he honestly, to be a right-handed defenseman in this league and in this free agency period, especially, you got the world on a string at that point, because you could basically, and in a year when the cap is going up, when teams need right shot defensemen, you can write your own paycheck at that point. So I think that he really could have gone anywhere, a lot of places. And so it does, and again, this is a young player. He's hungry. He got to Tampa right after they won their
Oh,
back-to-back cups. And so he wants this. And
yeah.
so like again, I'm not saying like Nashville's going to the cup this year. I'm just saying that like he's he's used to playing on a winning team and a winning culture. He sees that in Nashville, which is a good thing.
Yeah. And he did go on during part of his interview to say, look, there are just laws of averages. There are, the way the puck bounces. And at some point, they're going to come back your way. And I think that that's part of what we saw last season, too. Certainly not making excuses for the things that the Nashville Predators could have and should have done better. But I think he sees it very similar to how we saw it. I reached out to our great friend, Deandra Liu, who covers the Tampa Bay Lightning for a number of different outlets, and said, what do we need to know about Nick? She said, the first thing you need to know is he is very quiet. And he is. He is. He's very calm, very mellow, very, very quiet. She said that, last season he played a little bit less ice time, but that he eliminated just some mistakes that were troubling in the previous season. So she's like, we really saw him improve there. And she is interested to see what he does in an elevated role, because he really was a third line guy. Averaged, I think, maybe a little over 14 and a half minutes per game this past season. But it's not going to look like that, I think, this season for Nick Perbix. I think you're looking at somebody who I would say, Emma, is likely to be playing with Brady Shea some second line minutes. How do you feel about that pairing when you think about those two together?
I like it a lot. I like it. I think that it will kind of free Brady Shea up to kind of go and do his thing a little bit, which is something that he wasn't really able to do for a variety of reasons. I mean, number one, it's brand new system, brand new personnel. Number two, he's playing with Nick Blankenberg, who again, absolutely love the kid. Fantastic story. But I'm sorry, Nick Blankenberg has no business being a first pairing defenseman in the NHL. And so I think that, while it worked for it, it served its purpose. I think that Brady Shea, this is a guy who's used to playing with Brett Pesce in Carolina. Like he needs a more skilled pair or partner.
Yeah.
So I think that this will be good. I think this will be good for them. And I hope, I imagine that's where we start. Like that's where we start to see them. But again, Andrew Brunette, maybe we keep guys together for more than like a shift. How about we try that this year?
How about it? How about it? Yes. I love this for Brady Shea, because we saw how much he struggled at the beginning of last season, but he really started to find his groove at the end of last season. And I would love for Shea to be set up with a partner who can help him take it to the next level and continue where he's going, because we have not yet seen the best of Brady Shea, but it is there. So I think this could be a really great opportunity for them if they are together, for Brady Shea to kind of have that more reliable partner, more experienced, maybe more skilled partner to continue to improve. And also a great opportunity for Nick Perbix to get more ice time, to earn that ice time, to show what he's able to do. Barry Trotz talked about got to get bigger, got to get younger. So let's just have the get bigger discussion, okay? Because we joke on here that the most important stat to the Nashville Predators is inches above 6 feet. But let's talk about this. Nick Perbix, 6 feet 4 inches, I believe, is what he is listed as. There is a lot of the Minnesota boy to be had there on the ice. And you look at the difference in size on the roster, and you go back and you think about 6'4" Nick Perbix, and you kind of think about like a 5'10" Alexander Carrier, who we love, the Viscount Chihuahua here. Love him. But there is a difference in the way that the front of the net space is handled when you are 6'4" and when you are 5'10". And that's not a criticism of anybody who's 5'10", but I think that that is a general fact. And so when Barry Trotz talks about getting bigger, the direction we see the league going, the way we saw the the Stanley Cup finals being played, the net front battles that you saw in the postseason, getting bigger is actually a really important thing for the Nashville Predators to do on defense.
And it's not just getting bigger
Mhm.
either, because we saw like Luke Shen, big guy,
Big, huge, you
moved
all.
huge, moved like he had a piano on his back, and that's fine. That's fine. But I'm saying, like, not every, like, size isn't everything. It's finding that combination of size and mobility. Brady
Yes.
Shea is one of those guys who really has that. Perbix has that. Nick Hague has that. And so I think that it's important to, like, you're not only going for size. It's not Barry Trotz
Yes.
isn't going out there and like, let me just give me the biggest one, like the biggest one we can find. It's not just that, there's a lot of it, a lot of different things at play here. And so I think it's finding that combination of size and mobility. But I think that it's also, you can be a smaller player and still play big. I mean, like Alex
Mhm.
Carrier, to stay with that example, he blocked a lot of shots
He
for
blocked a
someone
lot of
his size.
shots. Mhm.
But that being said, there are different elements of his game that maybe, weren't as strong just because of his size, and that's not his fault. But I mean, when you're bigger, your stick's longer, you cover more ground, you
Yes.
block more shooting lanes. I mean, that's just how the whole size factors in, to the equation on the back end. So I think that it's not just about, I feel like people zero in on like, oh, we got to get big so we can just knock people off the puck. And it's like, well, that's part of it. Yes. But there's more to it. There's a little more nuance than just
Yes.
bigger equals better.
Yes. And I think as much as we joke about it, there is some truth to the fact that there is nuance to why bigger, a little bit bigger player may be beneficial to the team. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The mobility is key with these two new players. Again, big is great, but you have to be able to move. And Andrew Brunette's system asks a lot of the defensemen, and they have to be able to move. And I think that is something that we're really going to like about Nick Perbix. Coming up, Barry Trotz talked not only about getting bigger, but getting younger. While I am a big fan of age is not a disease, we're going to talk about why it is interesting and why it may matter that the Predators are getting younger on the blue line. All right, Emma, I don't like talking about age because it's just a number. Age is not a disease. Age is not an excuse. But it is something to keep in mind, especially for where the Nashville Predators are. You hit the nail on the head earlier when you said, can you imagine if Barry Trotz had signed Brent Burns? Can you imagine? You all. Oh, heavens. And again, that's not a skill statement. That is straight up age number. But you look at these signings, and I just went back really quickly and looked at last season's opening night defensive roster. You had Yossi, Shea, Lausanne, Carrier, Shen, and Fabro. Average age of those guys last season on the opening night against Dallas, 29.7 years old. If you're looking at an opening night defensive core of Yossi, Hague, Shea, Perbix, please don't hurt me. I said Justin Barron, and maybe Adam Wilsby. I'm just throwing those two out there. We're going to see what sticks. We've got plenty to talk about with that. You're looking at 2 years younger on average. And that may not seem like a lot, but for where the Nashville Predators are, age matters because you need to get some guys in here, A, for the post-Yossi years, and B, you want a defense that is going to be good now because they're still going to try to compete next season. But you need a defensive core that is going to be experienced and a little bit older as the Mullendykes, as the Cameron Reeds come up. And so at this point in time, in this pocket of time, age does matter for the Nashville Predators on the blue line.
It really does. I think it's about not even just the blue line. I think the roster in general, it's about having that, you talk about this a lot, and the now and the not yet. Right now, well, I would say coming into this offseason, it seemed like the Predators, they have their now and they have the not yet. But right now, those are two separate groups.
Yes.
And you need the sort of the link between the two. You need like you need the Gen X between like the boomers and the millennials, like you need something that's
Yeah.
going to bring them together.
Yes.
And so it's like it kind of bridges that gap a little bit. It's like they're not boomers, but they're not millennials. They're right in between, and they share some qualities with either of those two groups, but you know they're going to be helpful now. They can still get along with the boomers and they can still get along with the millennials. um and so I think that this is like where the roster, when you look at this roster, it's like, what are they missing? It's like, well, they were missing a lot of things, but I think this was really important. They have their present and they have their future. And right now, those are two completely separate groups. And you have nothing bridging that gap because, look, as much as we all want Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg to live forever,
Yes.
even if they play like it, they're not going to. And so you need that sort of next group. And so finding those guys, and again, it was kind of like finding a unicorn. I get it. People were like, how is Barry Trotz going to do this? Finding young players with NHL experience. That's not easy to find, but he did it in Nick Hague and Nick Perbix, and they're both coming, from winning cultures, winning teams. They've got familiar faces on the roster now as well. So I think that this is more of like where Nashville needs to start going, not only on the blue line, but I think in general, because you need that sort of that group that's going to bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah. And I agree with you. As much as I know and I understand that the fan base may feel very frustrated with Barry Trotz over some of the decisions that he has made, I do give him credit for going out there. And like you said, you really had to find a unicorn and really had to figure out who was going to fit in and be that, that Gen Xer, for this Nashville Predators team. And I agree with you. It's something that we're going to have to see when we're talking about the forward group as well. And I think there's still too much disparity between the veterans and the young guys there that there's a little hollow avenue down there that needs to be addressed. But on the blue line, I think it's very encouraging. And again, the Predators could get even younger than we think because there is a chance that a Tanner Molendyke could make the team out of camp. Friends, do not sleep on Andrew Gibson. And we've talked about that. We talked about that when we recap Dev Camp. Do not sleep on Andrew Gibson in NHL time. So, the Predators could get younger, but finding Nick Hague, finding Nick Perbix, so critical for that time period, for this particular time that the Predators are in. Emma, when you look at the blue line in general, what's the most important thing for them being better next season? You've added these new pieces. We know there's still going to be some tinkering when it comes to like what's going on with, Wilsby and Barron and Molendyke and all that. But what is most important, do you think, for the defense to perform better next season?
Well, I mean, consistency in personnel, and a lot of it, like, I know we've been ragging on Andrew Brunette for this, but it's not even just that. I mean, a lot of it was, injuries and trades and whatever. I mean, like, there was a lot of moving parts that it wasn't all on coaching for, all the moving parts that were happening on the back end. So I think, keeping guys together for just a suitable amount of time before you just, pull the trigger on it and just say, okay, never mind, that didn't work, we're done. I also think what's going to be interesting to see, and I really, obviously I don't have an answer for this right now, we can only tell with time, but how quickly they adjust to the system, specifically these new pieces. Now, I think Brady Shea is going to be a really important one to keep an eye on because, like you said, we did not see the best of Brady Shea last year. I have seen the best of Brady Shea. Y'all have to trust me. It's in there. And we did see him improve as the year went on.
Yeah.
But there were so many factors working against him. Like I said, like Nick Perbix also said, it's one of those years where just everything that could have gone wrong did. And so, law of averages, you have to imagine some of that is going to even itself out this year. I think we've talked about how getting off to a quick start, a strong start, is going to be really important for this team this year. But I think in particular, one player who really needs to get off to a strong start is Brady Shea. And knowing that it takes time for defensemen to pick up this system, knowing that this system, as you said, requires a lot, asks a lot of the defensemen. It's a lot of it is going to depend on how quickly these new pieces can pick the system up. And right now, I don't have the answer to that. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's hard to wait and see, but I do feel better about the defensive core with these two additions for a couple of reasons. How that translates onto the ice remains to be seen, but I do think, and again, like I said, Barry Trotz is he's on a hot seat, and I understand why. I think, okay, these could be really good moves that Barry Trotz made. Let's see what they do. I mean, y'all, in theory, statistically, it can only get worse by two teams. So,
or if it's
that.
by goals scored, it can only get worse by one team. So, hey, we're in a good spot here. And again, I agree with you, looking at the blue line compared to what it was last year, like we said, duct tape in a dream was holding this blue line together last year. Now you at least you can see the plan here. You can see the idea, the concept of what's supposed to be happening here. So again, if we can just get some consistency and get these newer guys up to speed, preferably sooner rather than later on the system, then we should be in a much better spot.
Yeah. And
Thursday,
come on. Look, this day is all rainbows and kittens and unicorns for me. So I'm going to need everybody to go along on this Gavin McKenna's going to Penn State ride I'm on right now. So that's where we're going to end.
Upper management is off camera right now, chasing her own tail in excitement. So I hope, please take comfort in the fact that someone is joining you in your excitement right now.
I love that. I appreciate that she's picking up what I'm putting down. I like that. Yeah. We will get a chance to hear from the other newest Nashville Predator defenseman. Nick Hague is going to be in town on Thursday, so we'll get a chance to talk with him. And of course, we'll bring you all that he has to say about coming to Nashville and what he is hoping to see happen next season for the Nashville Predators on the blue line. Emma, before we log off on this joyous day of days, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. I will be retweeting everything about Penn State hockey for the next 24 hours. So buckle up, friends. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow with an all new episode. We hope you guys have a great Wednesday. We'll see you then.